And I mentioned to a group of brothers before most of you got here, as I have with others, your people in this part of the world, the Western Hemisphere, have one book, and one book only, and that's the Bible. I don't need to prove that to you. You can take a census if you want. Just go to 10 doors and knock on the door and ask them, do you have a Bible? Do you have a Bible? And see how many times out of 9 or 10 you get a yes. Then ask them if they have the Quran, or the Bhagavad Gita, or the Bhagavatam, or the Rig Vedas. Or maybe ask them if they got the dictionary. In this emblem that Noble Drew Ali put there, he gave human beings two concepts: the direction in which to find God, and two, the direction in which to locate the movement of the solar system under which they live. Then he gave them a complete statement of the 12 personalities on planet Earth. He then gave them, with that emblem, the key to this book to unlock the knowledge of the Son of God to the measure of the fullness of the stature of Christ. That is not Jesus, my brother. Christ is divine nature. Jesus was a man who became a divine being. This book verifies that. We're going to run through much of it until you get this sense of the significance and the difference between the ideal of Jesus, the example of the perfect man, and what made him perfect. So the argument between Muslim and Christian ceases if they both know they are looking for divine nature, and that the creator of all things and all worlds would be less than intelligent to give one religion all of the truth to one people and walk off and leave the rest of them with nothing. Who in the hell would do that? You know, I mean, you don't need to be heavy and intellectual to figure it out when you talk about creator. So if you talk about Allah and Jehovah and Yahweh, you got a damn problem. Jehovah said himself he was a jealous God. In other words, I like you, but I don't like you. You know what I'm saying? That's what jealousy says. But that's the creator? Not hardly. What this man introduced to you with this simplistic symbol was the language of symbology. Just by handing it to you. Because when you went looking for it, you would be amazed, astonished, and illuminated where you would find it. That's how simplistic that act was and is. Because that is an act of wisdom, not intellect. He wasn't an intellectual. The man was wise. And a wise man doesn't speak much. He lets his truth speak for him. Some of the most brilliant black men of our time walked past that man and intellectually refused to acknowledge him because he was not a scholar, because he was not a highfalutin Negro preacher. They just simply walked past him. You see? Because they were looking for Jesus. Hear me clear. If you want to know why they missed him, and that they missed him is a fact of our history, they walked right past that man and refused to acknowledge him. Well, hell, they did the same thing to Father Divine. The poor acknowledged him because he fed them and healed them. But those that were given choice places and the fine china to eat from, that was Masa's boy. He wasn't looking for anything except what Masa wanted to give him. And I use that term not facetiously, but illuminatively, that there were black folks who were definitely Masa's boy. They dressed like him, tried to walk like him, and tried to talk like him. Until finally they became an interesting duplication of that white boy. And we still got them out here now. They ain't gone away. But they left us in something less than a pickle. They left us in a dark mirror where you cannot see things clearly. That's their sin in the name of God, truth, justice, and freedom. So years later, a few smart men, inspired from within themselves, and that's the same statement as saying they were inspired by God, to go find out what Noble Drew Ali was talking about. Elijah Poole Bay was one of those smart men. As uneducated as he was, he got up off his behind and went and found Noble Drew Ali and became Elijah Poole Bay, which was his jump and running start. Until Farad came along, and I don't know anything about Farad, so I won't comment on his works, his efforts. The only thing I got wind of in the South is that when they were having a big meeting in one of the auditoriums in Atlanta, and this little man stood up. This is after the demise of Elijah Poole Bay Muhammad, who had become Muhammad at that point, and started to speak. Everybody in the place went silent. Nobody hushed him. Nobody told him to sit down. And no one interrupted him for 2 hours. And after he finished speaking, he got up and left. And nobody got up to follow him. And later on, someone come to the recognition that it was the master Farad. That's all I know about it. What I do know is that he was given a second level of teachings to give to the same quote, and I put it in quote, Asiatics. The reason I put it in quote is because it has never been defined to the Moors or otherwise. The closest I've come to in its metaphysical definitive, it means that which God has created. Asia or Asha. The only reason Elijah Muhammad did not follow in the verbalization of Noble Drew Ali because of conflict. The Moors in America were still out there, not as strong, of course, as they were with the Prophet, as without him. The conflict would have arisen between a second step group of Moors in America to conflict with the Moors in America already present. It made sense not to do that. So he handled them with Asiatics and Muslim. That's what evidently he was given to do. So that's what he did. So the concept, the energy, the intelligence continued, but it had its point of division, as we have seen down through our history. The most noticed one, of course, was Marcus Garvey. I'm trying to think of who was out there at the same time Garvey was out there. W.B. Du Bois. Two people wanting to help the same people. No, they didn't. They split. W.B. Du Bois called Garvey a big old ape. And that severed it. Of course, Garvey got up off of his disappointed Eurocentric ass